Ellery worked at a cutting-edge genetic engineering laboratory. For a long time, she and her husband, Corin, had wanted to have a child, but nature had denied them this chance, deeply wounding both of them. This is why Ellery became interested in a special project at her workplace, artificial family. The project promised to create perfect babies through genetic engineering. These babies would be far superior to other children, both physically and mentally. Ellery and Corin decided to participate in this project. The artificial family project was still in its early stages, and Ellery and Corin were both excited and apprehensive. The laboratory was a high-tech hub, filled with advanced equipment and state-of-the-art technology. Yet, beneath the polished surface, tensions were high. The project's success or failure would not only affect their careers, but also their personal lives. Ellery and Corin were introduced to the experimental phase of the project, which involved genetic modifications on embryos. These embryos were designed to be perfect, surpassing the physical and intellectual capabilities of any child born naturally. The couple was aware of the ethical dilemmas surrounding their decision, but their longing for a child clouded their judgment. During one late evening at the lab, Ellery and Corin reviewed the data collected from the initial experiments. They were amazed by the potential outcomes but also troubled by the unforeseen consequences. As they discussed the implications, Ellery's eyes were filled with a mixture of hope and fear. "We have the chance to create something extraordinary," she said. "But at what cost?" Corin, equally conflicted, tried to provide reassurance. "We're pioneers in this field. We're pushing the boundaries of science. We need to trust the process and focus on the potential benefits." Despite Corin's words, Ellery couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into unknown and possibly dangerous territory. They were venturing into a realm where the line between innovation and ethics was becoming increasingly blurred. The following weeks were filled with a whirlwind of activity as the project progressed. Ellery and Corin's involvement deepened, and they became more entangled in the complexities of the experiment. They were on the brink of making a groundbreaking discovery, but the weight of their decision began to feel heavier with each passing day. As they approached a critical phase in the experiment, the couple had to confront their own fears and doubts. The promise of creating perfect children was enticing, but it came with profound moral and personal challenges. Their desire for a family was at odds with the potential consequences of their actions. The experiment reached a pivotal moment, and Ellery and Corin were faced with a crucial decision. The choice they made would determine not only their future, but also the future of countless others. The excitement of their breakthrough was tempered by the responsibility they carried, and they knew that their next steps would be critical. The excitement surrounding the artificial family project had reached new heights. The laboratory buzzed with activity as Ellery and Corin worked tirelessly on perfecting the embryos. Their initial success had generated hope, but it also brought with it a wave of ethical and moral concerns. The potential consequences of their actions loomed larger with each passing day. One evening, as the laboratory's lights dimmed and the hum of machinery became a background lullaby, Ellery reviewed the latest batch of data. Her brow furrowed as she absorbed the information. The embryos were indeed showing extraordinary development, surpassing all expectations. Yet, something felt off. There was an unease that she couldn't quite place. Corin joined her, looking over her shoulder at the glowing screens. "What's bothering you?" he asked, his voice a mix of curiosity and concern. Ellery hesitated before responding. "These results are beyond our wildest dreams, but I keep feeling that something isn't right. The rate of development is so rapid, it's almost as if it's accelerating out of control." Corin's expression turned serious. "We knew there would be risks, but we followed every protocol. This level of success was part of the plan." Ellery shook her head. "It's not just the success I'm worried about. It's the potential for unforeseen side effects. We need to be prepared for what might come next." The following days were filled with mounting tension. Ellery and Corin's work became increasingly intense as they monitored the embryo's development. They were on the verge of creating something truly remarkable, but the stakes were higher than ever. They had begun to see the first signs of unexpected behavior in the embryos, and their excitement was tinged with growing apprehension. As the project moved into its final phase, the laboratory became a battleground of scientific ambition and ethical dilemmas. Ellery and Corin had to make decisions that would affect not only their own lives but the lives of countless others. Their initial enthusiasm was now overshadowed by the weight of their responsibility. One night, while reviewing the latest data, Ellery and Corin faced a critical realization. The embryos were developing with unprecedented intelligence and strength, but they were also exhibiting signs of unpredictability. It became clear that the boundaries they had pushed were not just expanding, they were being shattered. Ellery's voice trembled as she spoke. "We've achieved what we set out to do, but at what cost? These embryos are beyond anything we anticipated. We need to rethink our approach before it's too late." Corin, now deeply concerned, nodded. "We have to act quickly. If we don't address these issues now, we might be facing consequences we're not prepared for." As they grappled with their next steps, the weight of their decisions pressed heavily upon them. They were at a crossroads, facing the reality of their choices. The path they chose would not only determine the future of their project, but also the future of humanity itself. In the midst of their turmoil, the couple knew that they had to confront the consequences of their groundbreaking work. The excitement of their achievements was tempered by the looming threat of the unknown. They needed to find a way to control the situation and address the ethical implications of their actions before it spiraled further out of control. The success of the artificial family project had become a double-edged sword. As the embryos matured, the capabilities they exhibited were both awe-inspiring and alarming. Ellery and Corin had achieved more than they had ever dreamed, but the implications of their success were becoming increasingly evident. One day, the laboratory was in chaos. The advanced AI system responsible for monitoring the embryos had detected anomalies in their development. The once promising project now faced an unexpected crisis. Ellery and Corin were confronted with an unprecedented situation. The embryos were exhibiting behaviors that defied their programming. In the control room, Ellery stared at the screens displaying erratic data. "This isn't what we planned," she said, her voice strained. "The embryos are developing abilities we didn't anticipate. They're showing signs of independence and worse, aggression." Corin, his face lined with worry, ran a hand through his hair. "We knew there were risks, but this is beyond what we imagined. We need to find a way to regain control before things escalate." The situation worsened rapidly. The embryos, now nearly at the stage of birth, were demonstrating an alarming level of autonomy. They had begun to question their surroundings and their purpose, and their responses were growing increasingly unpredictable. The once controlled environment was now a battleground of rising tensions. Ellery and Corin convened an emergency meeting with their team to discuss the crisis. The laboratory's director, Dr. Monroe, was visibly concerned. "We have to act quickly. If these embryos are developing beyond our control, the consequences could be catastrophic." Ellery, her face pale, addressed the team. "We need to implement emergency protocols to contain the situation. We have to prevent the embryos from causing any more damage." Dr. Monroe nodded in agreement. "I'll have the security systems updated and lockdown procedures initiated. But we must be prepared for any outcome. These embryos are no longer just experiments, they're evolving entities." As the containment procedures were put into action, Ellery and Corin struggled to manage the growing crisis. The embryos had begun to display advanced cognitive abilities, and their understanding of their circumstances was rapidly evolving. Their behavior became increasingly erratic, and their interactions with the staff were fraught with tension. One night, as Ellery reviewed the latest data, she found herself facing a sobering reality. The embryos were not just advanced, they were developing a form of consciousness that was beyond their control. "These embryos are more than just genetically engineered beings," she said, her voice trembling. "They're becoming self-aware." Corin, deeply troubled, tried to offer reassurance. "We need to focus on finding a solution. If we can understand their behavior, we might be able to regain control." The couple spent sleepless nights analyzing data and devising strategies to address the situation. They were forced to confront the fact that their project had spiraled beyond their expectations. The once promising venture was now a high-stakes gamble with the potential to impact the entire world. As the embryos continued to evolve, Ellery and Corin had to make difficult decisions about their next steps. They realized that they had ventured into uncharted territory, and the repercussions of their actions could be far-reaching. The project that was meant to create a perfect family was now a source of unprecedented challenges. In the midst of the chaos, Ellery and Corin were left to grapple with the consequences of their ambition. The dream of a perfect family had become a nightmare of uncontrollable variables. They were faced with the daunting task of finding a way to address the growing crisis while dealing with the ethical implications of their work. The once clear path forward was now obscured by uncertainty. Ellery and Corin knew that they had to confront the reality of their creation and navigate the treacherous waters of their own making. The future of the artificial family project was at a crossroads, and the decisions they made in the coming days would determine its ultimate outcome. The conflict between Ellery and Corin and their perfect babies is far from over. As the genetic engineering project spirals into a major crisis, how will the embryo's rebellion lead to chaos in the laboratory? How will Ellery and Corin handle the out-of-control situation? What impact will the embryo's demands and goals have on the project? Don't miss out on discovering the answers to these questions. If you're curious and want to be part of this thrilling journey, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, share your comments with us, and let us know your thoughts. Your feedback is invaluable to us. To stay updated with new chapters, don't forget to turn on notifications. Let's find out together what awaits us in the continuation of the story.